disclaimer for today's video. This was recorded, then I almost lost it. But there were just too many gems to try to record it again, so please put up with the poor quality. Mostly it's just me talking, but there are some important visuals a bit of the way in. Deal with it. This is awesome, thoughtful content. Listen with open ears and Hey, good morning. It's Jill Sessa. I am up on my little slice of heaven up here, my terrace in Williamsburg, Brooklyn. Thanks for joining me today. I had a conversation last night with somebody that was the kind of extraordinary conversation that keeps you up and keeps replaying in your head. It really had me thinking that this is an issue. What we discussed last night is so common. It's something that I talk with people about all the time, and I'm really insistent that people think of themselves in better and certain ways in order to move forward. So here's what the crux of the conversation was. This was somebody who has an extraordinary skill. This is somebody who has taught the people who are known as the best of the best in his industry. This is somebody whose credibility is without question. So we're going to start there. When we think back to the 4 agreements, we are going to start with the assumption that this is somebody who, 1, always is impeccable with his word, and 2, always does his best. So that's the first and the 4th agreement in the 4 agreements. As I've been talking over the last few weeks and months, 2 works continuously come up. The 4 agreements that I just mentioned, and then The Go-Giver, which is a book that I wrote about in a 5-part series, and was so fortunate because one of the authors, Bob Berg, he authored that book with John David Mann. Bob Berg actually has also commented on the blog and given some really, really wonderful examples of putting the 5 laws into action. So the conversation last night to me was so interesting. It was really this wonderful blend of putting both of those works into practice. I was, again, talking to somebody who we are just going to know, trust me on this, somebody who is truly, truly gifted at what he does. This is a person that whenever he is asked for help or guidance or tutelage, tutoring, anything, he gives it readily. He gives and gives and gives and doesn't get paid. If we go to the Go-Giver 5 laws of stratospheric success, I want to remind you that number 1 is the law of value. Your true worth is determined by how much more you give in value than you take in payment. But that doesn't mean that you don't take in payment and that it's not wonderful to take in payment. Because the second is the law of compensation. Your income is determined by how many people you serve and how well you serve them. That brings us to the law of influence. Your influence is determined by how abundantly you place other people's interests first. The law of authenticity. The most valuable gift you have to offer is yourself. And then finally, this is where somebody who gives and gives and gives and gives and gives and doesn't take in return, it's the 5th law that is the most important, the law of receptivity. The key to effective giving is to stay open to receiving. The law of receptivity, the key to effective giving is to stay open to receiving. Okay? So this conversation evolved last night, and there are some really phenomenal opportunities coming up for this person. I am so excited for him. And I happen to be working with him on a project, so I'm excited for me and for us, and so this group that we're working with. But so the conversation revolved around giving of information of something that in this case is actually a trade secret in some ways. But he speaks of it to others. He gives it to others all the time. And so we discussed that, again, I'm blending two very important works in my life here. Go back to the 4 agreements. Don't take it personally and don't make assumptions. I started with the premise that we were saying this is somebody who always does his best and who is impeccable with his word, okay? So let's take these middle 2 agreements. And it was my premise in this conversation that this is somebody who makes a lot of assumptions about others' thought processes and takes it rather personally. So I asked of him how he got to where he had gotten. I said, who are you? Who are you to deny your audience the opportunity to compensate you properly? Who are you to think for others that they don't want to pay you? The conversation took some very interesting turns and plans were made. Now I can't make any income promises here, but I said to him, at one point, did you pay somebody else for this information? And he laughed and smiled. And he said, I have been paying for 30 years. I've been paying with my time. I've been paying with my energy. And yes, I paid for information. And that made me giggle. Because he was denying his own and the ability to receive from those who want to compensate him. Because he has definitely given more in value than he expects to receive in payment. In this case, he expected to receive very little in payment. When you get to the point where many people will listen to you, well, many people look to you for guidance, that is when you get to take advantage of that second law. And your income is determined by how many people you serve and how well you serve them. So nothing about this is about taking advantage in a negative way. Nothing. There are people that will run to you with credit cards in hand because you have allowed them the opportunity. They have just been waiting. They have been soaking up all that you have put out into the world and cannot wait to finally compensate you. The conversation also last night was around fundraising. Now, not from an income standpoint, but actually fundraising. We're doing a significant project right now that needs capital investment. And there are potential investors. And so if you don't know this about me, my background, I've been a professional fundraiser as well as a volunteer fundraiser. So this was this aspect of my life that I was being asked to guide on. And I thought it was so interesting to really sit with somebody who was completely open. So understand that, we were in this conversation because he was completely open, but who was making so many assumptions about whether people would pay or not, whether people would give money or not, whether people would want to make an investment to become involved, to attach their well-earned name or not. But he hadn't even given them the chance. What is the worst that can happen when you ask somebody to become involved? Now you're asking them, again, we work from the assumption that we are always doing our best and we are being impeccable with our word. I will not be involved with something that I cannot stand behind that. But then we cut our potential funder list. We cut out people that could potentially be involved because we make assumptions. Well, why would they? Well, they have done this. Well, they are more than that. What a disservice to them. If this is a project we stand so proudly behind, why would we not want to give others the opportunity to be associated with it? And proudly ask them. So again, don't make assumptions. I will tie this, the same thing happens with people coming into your business. Who are you to deny them the opportunity? Who are you to self-judge or prejudge and make assumptions about all sorts of things in their life that you don't know? Who are you? But then comes the next part. The outcome, their answer to your request, you cannot take it personally. Do not take it personally. If you have done your best and you were impeccable with your word, and you offered the opportunity without making assumptions, all you can do is continue to do your best, answer any questions they may have, point them in the right direction, but then don't make assumptions about why they're either accepting you or turning you down. Detach from that outcome and wait until you see what happens. You will begin to ask people that are on your chicken list, as we call it. You'll have such power and such stance and such posture in asking, because the outcome is for them to know. The outcome is for them to decide, but you've given them the opportunity. If everything that you are involved in is something in which you wholeheartedly believe, as I hope is true, I hope that you don't involve yourself in things just because of some really superficial and ulterior motives. Money is great. I love compensation, but it's got to be because of something that you're proud to represent. When you take that step to open yourself up to involving others because you are no longer making assumptions, you're not assuming that they've already got something going on, or that they're not interested, or that they have a grudge against you, or that they don't like this person. I mean, this conversation last night was so interesting because as we started to talk, this extraordinary man that I was meeting with, his eyes began to twinkle. And I said to him, "You're not going to sleep tonight, are you?" And he just, yeah, okay, threw his hands up and he said, "This has opened my eyes up to how many times I've limited myself, to all of the ways that I was keeping things to myself. I have paid others. I have gladly given my income, my money, my time, my energy to others. Who am I to deny the essence of what I know to other people and to ask them to compensate me for it?" It's been a little bit long of a video, forgive me, but again, this is the combination of two really amazing works. And I urge you to go back to my blog, askjillsessa.com, and look for the Go Giver posts. There was a series there. And look in the comments. Bob Berg, the author of The Go Giver, one of the co-authors, made a really phenomenal set of comments. And truly think about where you're making assumptions, where you might be denying yourself potential business partners, potential life partners, potential compensation because you're making assumptions. You're prejudging. And then think about how you can detach yourself to not take it personally and realize that any decision somebody makes is about them if you have done your best and you are impeccable with your word. As always, be you, be unabashedly you. Wait until you combine that with the lessons here. Extraordinary things will happen for you, and I look forward to watching your journey. And again, if you need any help, if you want to talk about it, you know how to get in touch, please go ahead and call me, email me, head over to the blog. I look forward to talking to you. Have an awesome, awesome day. Thanks.